Let's talk all about AI in business. It's hosted by Brent Muller. Welcome to the Future Proof Podcast.
Hi, and welcome to the latest episode of the Future Proof Podcast. I'm host Brent Muller. My guest today is Nick Raschke from Doe Media. Nick, pleasure to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is great. So, Nick, tell us, introduce yourself to the audience and kind of tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, so I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've started and sold several e-commerce companies before doing Doe Media. And that's actually kind of what led me to Doe Media. I feel like every entrepreneur kind of feels this, like, you're an entrepreneur on the inside when you're working at a company, and like, you can't think about anything but your own stuff, your own projects, side things. So,
100%.
So I've always loved it. Been around the block a couple times. And so, when we were building the different e-commerce companies, all of them, were built on paid advertising all through like Shopify and Klaviyo and Facebook ads and Google ads. And then companies that we knew started reaching out to us like, hey, can you help us with our ads? Can you help us with our email? And so, me and my two co-founders, we just decided to join forces and just start one thing together, because we almost started as like anti-agency because we hated agencies. And that's kind of why we had to learn how to do it all on our own and get really good at it. And that's what we did. And we teach our employees that same ethos of, to think and act like an entrepreneur and speak to that CMO and CEO level, because a lot of brands, they come to us as their consultant who happens to run ads. So that's a little bit about me.
I love it. My company started very similarly, right? Same thing, it's just in a different vein. So I love that concept. And we've worked with a few e-com companies, and I wish I would knew Doe back then. So that's fantastic. And I love that. I love the evolution. So talk to me about some of your e-commerce journey, and then talk to me about Doe and kind of where you see this going.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where's your sweet spot? Yep.
So my first company was actually a paintball company that I started in college. I don't know if anyone's ever been paintballing before, but it is incredibly expensive of a sport. And so, I didn't have any money in college. So, I just started that slowly, just building out the website literally in my classes, because I didn't really love school. It wasn't really for me, but
Right.
I at least got to try to apply everything that I was learning, like accounting. Okay, great. I'm going to build out my P&L and all that stuff. So I started that in college, ended up connecting a bunch of manufacturers to my website, and created one of the first drop shipping sites in the paintball industry back in 2011. So this is like when Shopify really got started and all of that. So from there, sold that company. We started a company called Soil and Clay during the pandemic, which was like online plant business. And we started and sold that in 18 months. And, all the while we were working on Doe Media, and, Doe started with just me, my two co-founders. And then I think we had like probably 2 or 3 employees at the time. Today, we've grown to about 50 employees globally for the Doe Media side. And then we have a web dev side that has another 20 employees. And, our vision for the company is we really want to get to over 250 employees worldwide by 2030. And we want to be one of those dominating factors of advertising and all things marketing. We just started as Facebook ads, but now we do Facebook, Google, TikTok, Snapchat, Pinterest, email, websites, Amazon. We do a whole plethora of things. And we want to be that, we kind of started off of, you don't want to go to that one-stop shop because they're not really good at anything.
Right.
What we did different was now we acquire brands or agencies that are the greatest at Amazon or Google or email. We acquire those, bring those amazing co-founders into our ecosystem, and we expand so that we can be that one-stop shop that is great at all of those things.
Right, because you have the silos of specialties, right?
Exactly.
Fantastic.
And we all get to work together.
That's fantastic. I love that model. And so are you working with mostly e-com brands, or are you working with big brands as well that just want to be everywhere?
I would say we work with about 60% e-commerce right now. When we started, it was like 100% e-com. And then, we've definitely ventured out. We work with all ranges of clients. I mean, we've worked with, your typical $1 to $20 million e-commerce brands. We work with $160 million e-commerce brands. We even work with multi-billion-dollar brands like AliExpress, who we introduced into the US for the first time 2 years ago. So, we can work with pretty much everybody. I know all the books and everything is like, no, you got to pick a niche and stick with it. Well, our niche is advertising. We are data nerds. We know how to scale businesses. It doesn't matter what the business is. We can learn all those things. We tell all our co-founders or businesses that we're working with, you're always going to know your business way better than we do. You lit that fire. We are the gasoline to your fire, and we're going to set it ablaze and really set things to the next level.
I love that. And I love the confidence, right? Because it comes across, and I love that you're the anti-agency model, because I don't know another business owner that it hasn't been frustrated with a bunch of agencies.
Yeah. And, it can be frustrating. And, I think over time, as we've gotten bigger, there's probably certain aspects that when we started, we definitely probably wouldn't want to have made those same decisions. And kind of as you get bigger, you almost become the agency you didn't want to become. So there's certain aspects that we're still that way. And then just as you get bigger, you got to build out, more processes and more things. So yeah, hopefully we can keep that as we scale. That'll definitely be our next challenge.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me, as you look out, right, where do you see things going in the industry, right? As you think about what's coming with AI, right, with the channel. I mean, the fact that you guys do all these channels is amazing to me, right? Because it is hard to be omnipresent, right? Omni-channel advertising is one of the hardest things there is to do.
Yep.
And we could have a whole floor on that, right? So just Nick, talk to me about kind of where you see the industry going, and do you see consolidation? Do you see people niching where you guys are expanding and doing all that? Like, where do you see things going?
Yeah, so let's unpack that a little bit. So I think to know where we're going, we kind of got to take a step back and see, well, how did we get to where we are, and what is the current place of AI in all of advertising and marketing? So, Facebook and Google, and honestly, all platforms now, they've built out their own automated systems where, they almost want you to set it and forget it. And I think a lot of those systems sometimes work, but still need that human intervention, right? And
Agreed.
So I think that we're at a place where AI is pretty good, but I think a lot of people forget that AI is a tool. It's not the end all be all. You still need that human element that is training the AI and optimizing based on, what the human knows and also what the AI knows. Now it's kind of scary of like, even where some of these things are, of how good some of these like Advantage Plus campaigns are and PMax campaigns, because they're pretty damn good. And it's almost like, well, if they're that good today and they need, still human intervention, where are we going from here? What is the next level of that? And so I do see the future of Facebook and Google wanting to force more of brands using AI and not allowing you to have as many controls. In fact, we've seen it in recent years where even if you tell Facebook, hey, I want to exclude X, Y, and Z audience so that I'm just going after prospecting audiences, it'll say, oh, Nick, you don't know what you're talking about. We're going to include them anyways, right? And so I'm not scared, but I do fear the future of advertising in that way of, I don't want Facebook to become and Google and all advertising platforms to become an even bigger black box, because, I think it's important for marketers and businesses to know, like, well, who is your customer? What age are they? What gender are they? What do they like? What are they interested in? And even now, you get less and less of that information. And Facebook likes it that way. They don't want you to know those things. They don't want you to get more sophisticated. This is my opinion. They don't want you to get more sophisticated. They just want you to design creative, make more creative that works, and that's it. Give us the keys. We'll take care of everything. That's kind of where we're at today and where I think we're going. I really hope it doesn't go all of that way. I do think that
you and me both.
I think there's a lot of interesting things that AI is helpful with, though, too. Like everything that we've seen with ChatGPT, with Claude, even with I forgot what China just came out with, deep something.
Yeah. Deep Seek.
And we've already started implementing that this week. And, I think that's a really important piece is if you're not using AI today, you're already behind. And if you're not adapting new AI every week of like whatever's coming out, just to even test it and see what it's like, then you're still behind, because you need to be knowing where this industry is going. You need to know all these changes, because it's going to help you understand how fast technology is evolving right now and how quickly that, certain roles may not even be available. For our team, we used to never have copy writers on our team. A lot of our partners used to provide the copy. We've now built out specific in all these in Claude. I actually like Claude right now a lot. We build out profiles for every single client, and we feed it all their social media feeds, all of their copy from their website, all the top performing ad copy. And we can literally build profiles based on every category and product that client or brand has. And we can spit out pretty damn good copy. Still takes a little bit of human to finesse it a little bit, but it is pumping that out what would take someone a couple of days in an hour, if that, of just finessing it a little bit.
It's fantastic. It's fantastic. I love it. And this is, you hit on a few things there. So, one of my companies is, a data company, and, we have, a tremendous amount of data, and what you just were talking about hits home. But what I want to circle back before we even get into the targeting, right? Because I think you're 100% right. It can't be a black box. You need to know if we always use the analogy, you wouldn't sell hairbrushes to a bald person, right? Right. So that's why data is important, right? And the black box, like that's cannot be how we move forward. But what I wanted to ask you, Nick, is every platform's algorithm is different, right? And they program it that way. So if you're running on Meta versus you're running on Google versus you're running on TikTok, those algorithms all operate differently. Kind of talk about that, because your team specializes because you built those silos you talked about. Most agencies, they don't have the expertise to run that across there. So how do you kind of explain that to clients, and then kind of what do you see? Because you're right, the human has to understand what the algorithm wants to feed it the right thing.
So a couple of things there. One, I think all of the social platforms, at least today, I actually think their algorithm works very similarly. And I actually don't know why or who thought of this. I'd love to talk to that person someday. But it seems like Facebook, when they started, they're like, okay, to leave learning phase, you need to get 50 conversions in a 7-day window to get the optimal results. Well, it's not always true. In fact, once you hit that level, that's kind of like it stops learning for, a little bit. It's like, well, what if I didn't get the right customer within who that is? What if you only went after cheap customers? Because Facebook do that if you're not watching it correctly, especially if you are just doing like catalog ads and you have discounted products in there. Well, now it's going to go after and learn, I'm going to go after cheap customers. You're going to get a cheap cost per acquisition, but it's not the right customer that you want. And that's how all of the platforms work. Google now works that way. TikTok, Snapchat, Pinterest, all of them. I need 50 conversions. Like, okay, well, why isn't it 60? Why isn't it 70? What's the statistical relevance of 50? Like that, I want to know, because they're all built on that same system. And from an organic standpoint, they're kind of all built very similar to where, like I think TikTok probably cracked the code a lot better. And to me, it seems a little bit more simple. Like, yeah, if I like cat videos, send me more cat videos. If I like more of this, send me more of that, right? And it seems like even like Facebook has adopted a lot of that, but apparently they're missing something that TikTok's got us addicted a little bit more than everybody else. But I think that like it's not too far off in my experience. But what Facebook I think did really well from like advertising AI is they have the most data on all of us. And there's been so many people that have purchased on Facebook that I think Facebook and Google still to this day are the champions of AI purely because of that goal, all of that data. They've got years and years of that data. Plus, they have the data before all of the iOS changes, and that's like 10 years of pre-iOS data that they can still rely on. Right. Now, TikTok doesn't have that same thing. They only had, I think, a year of their advertising, maybe 2 years before the iOS changes came in. So they missed all of that. And they had a younger audience to start out, just like Facebook and Instagram did. And that audience doesn't typically buy. now that TikTok's audience is getting older and older, and we're getting more mature audiences, like I think the fastest growing audience on TikTok right now is 45 to 60-year-olds, which most people don't believe. But those same people that are like, I don't believe that, I literally ask them, well, are you on TikTok? And most of the time they're like, sadly, I am. And it's like exactly what it is. So, and as those older audiences start to buy, there's more buying power on TikTok, which powers that AI. And so really TikTok's AI for advertising is about to get a lot stronger, assuming they stay in the US, which I think that they will, but we'll see.
I think they will.
If they will, they're going to become, I think they're going to overtake Facebook because of a data thing. And they haven't been able to until now. However, they have on the organic side and the TikTok shop side, because they're selling a bunch of cheap crap, just like Instagram and Facebook started with. Oh, you want the print-on-demand T-shirt, you want the small little knick-knack from AliExpress, but you're going to see that evolve. So I know I talked a lot about that, but
no, but it's important, right? Because not everybody understands the algorithms. They don't understand what's behind the scenes of what games being played by the big platforms. So no, I love it. 100%. So Nick, as you look down the road, right? Now you've told me what you think some of the roles are going to change. What else changes in the industry, right? Because we haven't even got into native and banners and all the other things. We've talked about the big platforms, but you guys run the gamut, right? Or we haven't even talked about Amazon.
Where do I see AI going with everything else?
Yeah, and where do you see just the industry in general, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. My predictions over the next couple of years is, I think live selling, even outside of AI, live selling is going to become one of the biggest things in the US.
So let me just say because you asked me earlier about some of my podcasts, and I forgot about this. About a month ago, I did a podcast with an e-com guy, and he said that in China, right, 30% of all sales right now are live selling. And he told me that this 2025 will be when live selling. So now I want you to finish that thought. So I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just wanted to level set on that.
He's spot on. In fact, I think 30% might even be low. I think it might be higher because live social selling started in Asia in 2014 and has slowly built up. If you think about it, I love the phrase, what's old is new again. Mm-hmm. This is our QVC channel. This is you turning on the channel and they're talking about the necklace, the lawnmower, the vacuum. That is exactly where we're at a mass scale. And they tried to introduce it several times on both TikTok and Instagram. And in 2024 was the first year that we actually saw the adoption of it. We just got done talking to TikTok about they're about to really roll out their lives as a platform in general to compete with all the other live platforms, because they even found with shops, there's so many different aspects of like the shipping, the returns, there's so much that they just want people to go live. So the more people that you can get to go live in the US, the faster you'll get the adoption of the shopping. And now people are actually tuning in and watching this stuff. It seems like every 5 things that I flip on TikTok is someone selling that live social thing. So I think if one of the areas that brands need to invest in, and it feels so weird, it's a very weird concept, but if you build out a little thing in your warehouse, little studio, get a camera, well, you even need a camera, you just use your phone,
right?
Go in the background and you just sell all day. And then you start, once you break even on that person, add a second person. Once you break even on that person, add a third. You could have a whole army and literally take over the entire feed of your product across multiple. You get different ages, different genders. If you really want to go after all the personas of your brand, put a persona for each live audience you want to go after, and everything else, ads and all that, is supplementary. But this is like that new thing that I think everybody needs to double down on. And there is a piece of the AI in the background of like, okay, well, this person likes watching live videos. Great. We're going to serve them more stuff. This person actually is looking for a lawnmower. Check out our lawnmower. It's going to work in the exact same way as ads do.
That's amazing. I was just going to ask you, can you explain you did it perfectly, right? How live selling is going to work on social platforms. That like I could see that happening for sure.
You're going to see it on Amazon. I think that they would be so stupid if they didn't integrate this. They've started integrating a little bit of a social media feed, but they have to, if they want to sell more product, like this is how you're going to do it. Instagram does it too. We actually have brands that they have Facebook audiences of all their customers. And every time they drop a new product, instead of just sending an email, they will go into the Facebook group, do a live, and they'll talk about all their new product. And they'll do over 100K in an hour, just talking about a new product.
Crazy.
Email. So there's so many aspects of going live. And, I think we're in a world now in a post-pandemic that we want to connect with humans again. So many people are working from home, talking to a phone, and you're still talking to the phone, but they want that.
It feels more real, doesn't it?
Exactly. You see the comments, you see you have that extra human touch. And so when you got Steve watching the live feed and they shout out like, "Hey, Steve, thanks for buying our product," Steve might go and buy another product.
Yeah.
You made Steve feel recognized.
Right. Recognition, right? Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Amazing. I definitely can see this, taking off in a big way. And I actually think you're right. I think we're on the doorstep of.
Absolutely. There's only a few people doing it really, really well. There's brands that are doing over $1 million a month on TikTok, just doing live selling right now.
Crazy. And we might have to come back in a couple of months and do this again and do an update just on live selling.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is great, Nick. So tell me a little bit about any other like the data part, right? And the persona, like what you're doing with Claude, to circle back on that, it to me is really, really cool with the personas. And so just for the audience in general, right? And the reason why I mentioned I have a data company because we dived into this, but what you're talking about is the right way to use data to know as much as you can about your target audience and their demographics, their likes, their hobbies, or, anything. So kind of talk about how you guys do that with your customers.
Yeah. So we built a company called Datafy where we can connect all of our customer data into our data system, and it imports into, I think, like hundreds of different data ports, credit card reports, public data, political data, all of that, which is honestly, most people don't know this, it's all public data. You don't even have to buy licenses to it. Everybody has access. We built a system where you can take your customers, import it back over to there and do a matching. So you can build out and say, well, this is who your customer is. And typically you don't have just one customer. You typically have multiple cohorts of customers. And even within those cohorts, you have different types of customers because you have your high rollers, which is going to be your customers that are constantly coming back. Well, who are these people? So we built a system where we can tie that data back to other industry data and say, hey, here's who your customer is. And then you can start building and validating personas off of that. And even now, if you can take, even if you don't have access to data and platforms that can do those things, you still have a good idea of who your customer is. If you don't, there's many different ways you can figure that out, even for free. Do surveys once a month, survey your customer. Another thing that people just don't do is they don't want to pick up the phone and ask questions of who their customer is.
I don't get that at all.
Oh my gosh, man. If brands spent one day, a month, even a quarter, where their entire team just call these 50 people and ask these couple questions, you're going to learn so much about your customer and give them a little incentive. You can even turn it into a sales thing like, hey, thanks for connecting with me today. I'm not trying to sell you anything, but I'd love to give you a $25 gift card to the store if you want to buy something on us.
Yeah.
So now that customer feels like they have $25 that they got to spend. It's different from 25% off because they feel like they've got their brand bucks, right? And then you get to learn a lot more. Like, okay, where are you shopping? What are you doing? There's so many little aspects you can learn. And I think so many people are afraid of doing that. You can send out surveys, but you're only going to get a small portion of people that are actually going to, do that. So there's definitely different ways to do it.
Yep. And you could do that. To me, you do it through picking up the phone or texting because people love to text and go back and forth now.
Love that. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Totally agree. I love all of this. So Nick, I could talk to you forever because especially about the data piece. The one thing that we always talk about is upload your customer data, right? Build the lookalikes out of the data set. And that's kind of what you were just talking about is, hey, here is really your customer. And then when you start segmenting your customer, like you talked about, your high rollers, your frequent buyers, right? Your guys that are always looking for the discounts, then you know content they want, right? The ones that are always looking at discounts, sure, send them to 10% off. Well, why would you care to send that? Like, if that's more low-hanging fruit money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then if you can take that data and build out your personas, then you can match your creative to those different personas and test different messages within each of those personas. And you throw those into these platforms like Facebook and you segment based on persona. You're going to train those different campaigns and algorithm on those personas. And Facebook today is learning based on creative, not just audience. It is analyzing the creative. What is in it? What is the copy? Who is the target in there? And it's going to go after more people based on the creative. So you have to tie that piece back into.
Yeah, 100%. To me, this is the shift. And data is empowering the shift of marketing to a segment of one, right? We're not getting there yet, but that's where it's moving, right? Marketing from the spray and pray of the big audiences to the segments where you're marketing to a persona, and it moves closer and closer to where I'm marketing to Nick or I'm marketing to Brent. Exactly. And that's where we're moving. And that's where AI and data are empowering things. And that's how the algorithms that's where they're moving towards. And then you start to get into live selling, and that's a whole nother issue. But Nick, this is phenomenal stuff. So I told you in the beginning, I wasn't going to keep you forever. I could talk to you forever because I love everything that you're doing. One more question before I ask you the 2 wrap-up questions. So the hardest part in marketing to me is if you're a brand, whether you're an e-commerce brand or you're just a national brand or a global brand, the hardest part is meeting the audience where they live. And they live in so many different places now than they ever did before. What do you say to your customers about how, if they said, hey, Nick, we want to be everywhere, but they can't, right? How do you think about the omni-channel issue?
When you say they want to be everywhere, and you mentioned location and platform, so I just want to make sure I answer correctly. Were you meaning location within like the United States or globally, or did you
global?
mean?
Yeah, just me. Yeah, yep.
Got it. So I've always believed, and I've done a ton of data testing on this. I think Facebook for sure knows exactly where your customer is. So, in the US, if you have a nationwide product or service, not a local business, you should automatically run it nationwide. Doesn't matter what you're selling. As long as anybody can buy it, run it nationwide, because you're going to give Facebook the opportunity to run through all the different data points and know exactly where your customer is. Now, a lot of people that are more junior will look at their Google Analytics and be like, well, a good majority of our buyers are coming from Texas and New York and Illinois and California. It's like, yeah, of course, those are the biggest states with the highest population. Right. But there's still Bob in Texas or in Kentucky who probably gives all the signals to buy your product. There's probably Jessica in Nebraska that has the same signals that will buy your product. And so if you give enough data to the system, it can utilize its AI to find the right customer.
No matter where they're at, right?
Yeah, but very rarely when I'm running Facebook ads or TikTok ads, do I say, hey, let's just do the South or let's just do the biggest states. You're going to see a huge lift, even if you have small budgets, because, small budget brands actually get, I think, dinged the worst because they don't have enough budget to play to get as much data as the big boys to target that right person. So I personally am not a fan of that. Now, I think that changes a little bit if you're like a very niche product, like if you're selling Green Bay Packers gear, well, there's probably one location that you're going to want to sell Green Bay Packers gear.
Right.
So
right.
I think it's really dependent upon that. When it comes down to countries, I have a set group of countries that I know just happen to work globally. The European area, I personally don't like to mess with because their data rights and all that are
right. GDPR is tough.
Yeah, so I try to stay away from those personally. But US, Canada, Netherlands, Hong Kong is great. Singapore is great. Japan is great. Chile is great. South Africa is great. Like there's a couple countries that I'm like, I like to just group together that, the UAE is great. So there's a lot of like set countries that I've tested that like, I know like, hey, if you are going to go international, this is where you're going to want to go.
That's awesome. That's really good advice. Really, really good advice. All right. So let me wrap up with a couple things. So tell me something cool you as a co-founder have done with AI, whether it's personal, pet project, something, not that you do day to day with the staff.
Not day to day.
Oh, no, give me day to day. I'm just saying something that,
I'll tell you
Yeah.
too. So I'm a big Pokemon fan. I buy Pokemon stuff all the time. And so I programmed my ChatGPT to let me know when inventory on certain sites like hits so that I can go in and buy it. And it literally will bring me links to like buy the product. So if you're on a paid plan of that, you can automatically send it over to you.
That's phenomenal.
And
That's
then,
a really cool thing to do.
Yeah. Excuse me. Sorry.
You're good.
And then for the team, we implemented calls. It's like Fireflies. Actually, we just moved off Fireflies. If no one knows this, I'm telling everybody, sorry, Fireflies, you need to change this. Nothing is private in Fireflies. Even if you pay for the highest tier, everything is searchable. Just a little tidbit. We just moved over to Fathom Video, and I love it. And so what we're doing with all of that is we take all of our call scripts from every division, Facebook, sales, email, communications, internal communications, and we will take all those scripts, feed them into AI, and figure out what are the most common phrases that we use that are winning, what are the most common phrases that are used that are not received well, and what are the most common questions so that we can build SOPs and training videos behind those.
That's fantastic. That is awesome. Really cool thing, Nick. Really cool thing. All right, last question before I let you talk about Doe. If I could give you a magic wand to help you fix one thing to help you grow or exceed your next 12-month growth targets, what would that be?
If I had a magic wand, I would make Apple change their iOS privacy rights, and I think everyone would be happier.
I don't disagree. And for everybody that doesn't know, Apple has become a very walled garden.
Basically destroyed thousands of businesses overnight in 2021 and cut off the data, made it difficult for everybody. So if that changed, be a great world. No, we're still having a great time. But we found some around it.
Yeah, I'm sure you did. Not everybody did, but I would imagine with your data background that you guys have. So Nick, for anybody that is watching that wants to talk to you, Doe, about helping them grow, scale, and be everywhere, how would they do that?
Yeah, just go to doemedia.com. That's DOE media.com. You can sign up for free consultation, chat, whatever you want. We do free audits, and honestly, we're just a bunch of nerds over here that love marketing and advertising. So if anybody wants to chat about their business or how we can help, happy to have a convo.
Love it. And definitely we'll have all the links below when this goes live. And Nick, it has been an absolute pleasure talking to you today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. See you again.
Thanks for being our guest. All right. Till our next episode, guys. We'll talk to you later.
If you're ready to embrace change and lead with innovation, be sure to subscribe and never miss an episode. Thanks for tuning in to the Future Proof Podcast.